Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the EKN Debrief here on the EKN Radio Network. My name is Rob Howden, joined by David Cole for episode 66. It is August the 4th, 2020, into the 8th month of the year. And again, a lot of the country still being pinned down a little bit with the COVID-19 pandemic. Numbers on a slight uptick in some areas, a more larger uptick in others. We're going to take this opportunity today, though, to kind of go back and review an event that both David and I and a number of other people were able to enjoy at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Of course, the 2020 USAC Karting Battle at the Brickyard happening just this past weekend at the iconic IMS in Speedway, Indiana. It was an amazing weekend. A lot of people, a lot of smiles. You see through their eyes because everybody, of course, had masks on for a vast majority of the time. But we're going to get underway. We got a lot to talk about here, and we'll talk a little bit about what's happened with the Indianapolis 500 as well. Just before we came onto the broadcast here, word coming down that this year's 500 being shot out to fans. Of course, the numbers going up a little bit in Indiana. Health officials, being, I think, a little more, not a lot, say a lot more cautious in terms of having potentially, 60, 70, 80,000 people at the Speedway. This particular edition of the EKN Debrief, episode 66, brought to you by Briggs & Stratton. Briggs & Stratton is powering Operation Grassroots around the world. No other engine manufacturer is getting new and returning drivers to the kart track like the Briggs 206. The out-of-the-box performance of the Briggs 206 provides the most fun, excitement, and reliability of any karting engine on the global market. Learn more about the 206 engine and the history behind Briggs & Stratton's century-long commitment to motorsports at www.briggsracing.com. Briggs & Stratton Racing. What powers you? Well, David Cole, you and your dad, Bob, made the trek back from Indianapolis back to Grand Rapids on Sunday nights. I actually headed straight here, to the hotel, then straight over here to our essentially Newcastle headquarters, the Airbnb we have in Newcastle for this coming weekends and the following weekend, SCUSA Summer Nationals or Festival of Speed to get their Pro Tour in. But David, 4-hour drive home, I think something like that for you guys, a little under 4 hours, get a chance to chat about it with your dad. It was, it really was an overall awesome weekend once again at Indianapolis.
Any day you go under the tunnel for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is a good day, whether it's rain, whether it's dry, whether it's hot, whether it's cold. Just being at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is a good day. And in order to take part in a karting event inside the Brickyard is just amazing, and certainly a great bucket list that we notched off last year. And we just knew we had to return for 2020. And thankfully we were able to do that in this strange and unusual time that we're living in right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Fourth edition of the event, as you said. You and I went last year, and it was immediately as soon as it came out, whatever the schedule was, we're going to try to get it. I'm, of course, worried about maybe a conflict with the IndyCar and Road to Indy program. You were looking at a couple of your other races as well. People in the karting industry working together to kind of make sure that the Battle of the Brickyard was going to be able to happen, which I think was awesome. Fourth edition of the event. But David, I know as a 51-year-old dude trying to run two classes, I was very happy we didn't have the high heat that we had last year. It was much more comfortable temperatures all weekend long compared to last year.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, last year, just doing the one class, I was pretty hot and warm and kind of just beat up because, it's just that temperature and the humidity, takes a lot out of you. This year, obviously we were dealing with possibility of rain every single day. We had it Thursday during the move-in, so we had to, kind of dodge the raindrops while setting up tents and getting things ready. But yeah, the lower temperatures certainly helped allow to make it a little bit easier, especially on us older guys. And then me doing two classes this year. It was pretty busy Friday, that's for sure. Now I understand the hustle and bustle and why you were sweating so badly last year, but because I never took the suit off. It was jump out of one and then walk over to the other pit, get that one ready, and then go out. And it was really not a lot of time to relax and chill. And so obviously the multi-class route it's more work, but it's more fun because you get the opportunity to get out on the racetrack more than just that one per class.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You said pretty busy on Friday, 3 practice rounds and qualifying on Friday. And like you said, I was in the Margay Ignite Masters class and the Briggs 206 Masters class, and there was only one gap. So I would come in, there were so many guys, 33, 34 guys in the Margay. I would come in, immediately park my cart off into the grass. I wouldn't even go to the scales yet. I would run over, hop into the Briggs cart, the Comet Eagle, and then wait, 5 minutes before we went out for that next session. Then I'd be weighing 2 carts at the same time coming through, but both practicing and qualifying. It was a hectic day on Friday, but David, lots of seat time too. In an event of this size with a number of categories, I don't even know the number of classes all total. It had to be probably somewhere around 20. I'm sure you'll know the number when we get to that in a second. A lot of track time. Those short practice rounds, 3-4 laps. That's all you really got. But then 7-lap heat race, a 10-lap pre-final, and that was a 14-lap main events on Sunday. There was a lot of time on the racetrack, I thought.
Yeah, 18 categories filled up the schedule. Obviously, the race groups were put together. So overall, I think let me look at the thing there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 race groups.
There you go.
So 12 race groups. So 18 classes, 12 race groups. 12 race groups, a lot, but as you said, the way they kind of time things out, it still provided you with a lot of track time, especially with the racing laps. Getting 17 in the 2 heat races total, and then 14 laps for your main event. Not to mention the qualifying sessions, which were a bit chaotic for us, but. It was, we'll get more into that later, but, it was, plenty of track time. And again, it's, we're doing, the shifters and tags were just, under a minute, we're doing, minute 7, I think in the Briggs, a minute 9 in the Ignite. So, it was a very fast track, and that's something we'll probably talk a little bit more in the paddock.
Yeah, let's move to our by the numbers. We'll kind of break down all the different categories. What I found stunning, and I think I'm sure that the people at USAC Karting kind of lamenting the fact that the COVID-19 did do what it did, because we had only 21 less entries, 454 entries last year, 435 entries this year, David, and that's not counting the countless Canadians that were coming down. I talked to a number of Canadians that wanted to come down and run, and they just weren't able to do that this year. And I think with Briggs being so strong up in Ontario and Quebec, and even on the West Coast as well, you were going to have a lot more people. You would have had more people coming from all over the country. But with the the COVID scare and kind of the shutdown and everything that happened, to have just 21 less, still 435 entries. It could have been even more.
Yeah, as you said, the Canadians weren't able to come down, but it was also, a lot of people are limiting on their travel. They're restricted from going outside the state or being able to be allowed around mass gatherings. So it certainly had an effect on the overall numbers, but thankfully, as you said, only 19 less than last year, which only adding 1 extra class really is, kind of a great number in the whole grand scheme of things. As you said, with this COVID-19 pandemic, it could have been a lot worse, but that's something that we're seeing with karters and the karting business is people are not afraid to get to the kart track or continue supporting their karting businesses that they enjoy working with. And our sport is still growing, despite this COVID-19 pandemic that we're in right now.
And especially at this level, talking to Mike Burrell and Jason Burgess last year, they felt very comfortable calling the Battle of the Brickyard kind of the country's biggest club race, right? It wasn't to try to downplay it, but it was the fact that the people there are that base, the foundation of the sport, the foundation of the pyramid. That's who's coming to this event. Yeah, there's a couple of big teams that were coming in as well, a couple of big drivers, but for the most part, this was this big kind of huge club race that everybody could come to at the most iconic racetrack in the world. Numbers wise, David, folks, if you weren't there, you obviously are following on social a little bit. Just listen to the numbers here right now. David's got some percentage at the bottom, and I'll throw that out to begin with. 66% of the entries on the Briggs & Stratton 206. That again plays well to Operation Grassroots. 60 drivers in Briggs 206 Masters, David, our class, up 5 from last year, 60 drivers. Up 4 in Briggs 206 Junior to 31. 59 in Briggs 206 medium, that's only down 3. Down 9 in Briggs 206 heavy. Maybe guys move in different ways. 52. And then the Ignite category, David, junior, senior, and masters. 79 drivers in total. 11 juniors up 1. 33 masters up 3. And 35 Ignite seniors. Down significantly for Margay Ignite senior, which I found kind of interesting that we wouldn't have had more. But maybe that's partly some of the drivers in Ignite senior may have traveled down to the Winter Series or the Winter Series in SCUSA. Like you said, budget numbers a little bit, but the bottom line was 79 drivers in Ignite. Unbelievable numbers in the 206 classes.
Again, that's another category that could possibly be due to the travel restrictions, because it's that category is obviously more geared towards that arrive and drive program that Margay provides. But there were a number of competitors that were pitting just out of their own trailers with the Ignite package. So that's what we're starting to see more. We're not seeing as many arrive and drive programs under the Margay tent, because everybody's buying one and keeping one for at home and racing at the home track or just for these events alone.
I do think as well, potentially, Margay in their tent. Of course, I ran with them last year at the Battle of the Brickyard as well, and they had social distancing within the tent as well. And I'll take this opportunity now. We'll talk more about the time we had me racing in the Margay Ignite crew, but I'm telling you, Margay, again, such a class operation, class people that work there. So last year, of course, you're side by side with drivers, right? Every pit had another driver. Well, to have social distancing under the pit, there was actually a spare pit spot essentially between every driver. So you could have essentially almost doubled the amount of people inside the tent. And I didn't even ask Keith Freeber or Greg Dingus this, but I have a potential thought that maybe they just had to shut things down in terms of how many people they could put in the tent, because it was packed with what they had. But one of the things about the hospitality there as well, you have a mechanic with every 4 carts, I think it is, every day catered lunch. And of course, we couldn't do it this year. We couldn't have our little hospitality area we had last year with the buffet lunch. But Margay stepped it up, box lunches for everybody. We had Chick-fil-A one day, Chipotle the other day. I'm not sure what the third day was. Off the top of my head, I can't really remember.
Ribs or pork potbelly, yeah.
Potbelly sandwiches. And then everybody got a cooler because, of course, last year, a couple of big coolers full of water, full of Gatorade to make sure everybody had what they wanted. Well, you don't want people reaching into that stuff. So everybody had their own personal cooler that had an apple, a couple of Cliff Bars, some water, and some kind of a Powerade drink to make sure our electrolytes are up. I'm every time, just the whole Margay program, having known them for so many years, 25 years now since I first met Keith Freeber, probably even more than that. God, I think we're probably 25 years. I think 95 or 96 was the first time I met him. It's just a class organization, and just to be able to be under that tent, and every time I sat down and grabbed the water out of the cooler or talked to the people up front, they're just so gracious. And it just, I'm telling you, it's Keith and I talked about it, David. It's not something that probably could have happened back in the mid 2000s, but just the way people are now, wanting the ease of competition, removing that barrier of entry. Margay has done more for the sport, I think, over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years than any other organization, and they just bringing more people in with this Ignite program, just growing the foundation of our sport. I love it.
Yeah, Labor Day weekend will be 5 years. 2015 was the first time we were part of the Ignite program at Rock Island Grand Prix, and yeah, it's done a lot to just not only get new people in the sport, but get old people back in the sport. You saw Jim Fry and Lance Fry coming back to race in the Ignite program. Who are you racing? Drew Newbar. Drove 18 hours from Texas to come up and race, and he can race anything he wants to, and he came and raced the Ignite package, and he's sold on it.
Dude, he's raced Trans Am with our boy Mark Miller, TA2, right? And I remember Drew Newbar back in the SCUSA Pro Moto Tour days running S2 on a DAP chassis with Kawasaki power. I called him, he was the Cincinnati Kid. The guys run Trans Am. Did our hashtag support karting program. He heard what we were saying, went out and bought a tag engine, didn't need it, bought a tag cart, and has done some tag road racing. But said, I'm going to go try this Margay deal. And he's sold on it. He's like, this is perfect for me. Arrive, have a great time, do some racing, get to go home. So it's like you said, David, it's really done that for a number of people that have allowed them to come back to the sport.
And as you said, a lot of behind the scenes work that Margay has done with, especially this weekend. They were sending out text messages so you could sign their own waiver to be within the tent. At the coolers, that's all that little stuff that's done behind the scenes to make sure that when you arrive, you're taken care of from the first minute to the last minute when you leave to go home. It's it's a lot of work and a lot of time and effort put into it to make sure that the experience that you have is enjoyable, no matter where you finish on the racetrack.
Yeah, 100%. Now, David, what, 36 drivers in total in that combined Yamaha group? You were one of them as well, part of the 12 drivers in Yamaha Masters. Good to see the KT100 out there as well.
Yeah, a little drop off in Yamaha Junior, down to 8 from 18 last year. I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of these younger junior drivers moving over to the new FK100 package that was run with the KA100 engines and the VLR engines, because that category rose to 20 from 14 last year. But Yamaha Senior stayed about the same, 16, only down from the 21 they had last year. Masters only down 3 from, as you said, 12 from 15.
What I thought was interesting was a doubling as well of the stock Honda drivers. There was 12 stock Honda racers last year in Senior and Masters. They had 25.
Last year was stock Honda. So last year was stock Honda. This year, because they separate, is a different formula. Last year they allowed the
that's right.
IME 175 engine and KZ engines together, and they called it KZ. So, and then last year they had stock Honda separate. This year they did the 175 separate from everybody, and then everything else was in the 125 shifter class for both Senior and Master. So kind of it was, it's kind of a jumbulation.
They dropped a bit on the overall numbers of shifter, right?
Yeah, so 30 last year in the senior categories combined, 26 this year. Masters had 15 last year, but up to 17 in 2020 when you combine both the 175 and the 125 group together. So, essentially it kind of a wash there, even though they kind of reorganized those categories into different classes, still kind of the same numbers there. A drop off in the IME categories, 21 last year in senior down to 12, with IME Masters down to 15 from 21. But the like as I mentioned, the new FK 100 category, they introduced a senior category that had 28. So that, as we're seeing across the country, the 100cc package is growing back again with the VLR and the K100, and I expect those numbers to continue to rise in 2020 and 2021.
Dave, just a quick before we go to our first break here, a quick note to wrap it up though. What a shifter car track! I watched that the in-car video that got posted on YouTube from Devin Smith Harden. Wow, weren't they say they were almost 100 miles an hour going into the left-hand sweeper on the inside of the racetrack?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, everybody kept trying to get to that 100 mile an hour mark.
Wow.
I'm sure somebody had to have hit it Sunday during that main event, because that was just some wild racing, and that
was wild.
It's again, as we talk about, we'll talk about the track a little bit more. It's a road racing track. This made Newcastle look slow.
It did. That's right. Yeah, easy on our bodies though.
Very, very easy. Aside, a few bumps here and there, but you have access roads that you're using as a racetrack, so there's a little bit of bumping, bumps in the access road. But once you get on that Indy GP course, I mean, that is smooth as glass.
That's true enough. All right, folks, our first break in the action here on this edition of the EKN Debrief, episode number 64. David Cole and I going over the battle at the Brickyard at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. When we get back after this commercial break, we'll talk about what we call the Paddock Pass.
Trader, Evans, Haddock, Pruitt, McMurray. Karting legends are created here at the Quincy Grand Prix. This is Randy Kugler, the voice of this iconic event. This year's Quincy Grand Prix was set for June, but the COVID-19 pandemic forced us to reschedule the race to October 10th and 11th. On that gorgeous fall weekend, for the 33rd time since 1970, competition karts will once again rip around the spectacular and beautiful 1.2-mile circuit set out inside the South Park of Quincy, Illinois. The 2020 edition of the Quincy Grand Prix marks the 50th anniversary of the first time karters raced around this historic venue. To celebrate the event, a $10,000 cash purse has been established for the 4 pro classes competing on the weekend. A total of 11 categories will be competing for the unique trophy given to all race winners, the Gussie, designed and named after the original race founder, Gus Trader. Registration is now open, so don't wait and enter now at QuincyGrandPrix.com and become legendary. We'll see you at the park.
Acceleration Kart Racing is your first and only stop on the internet for karts, parts, and safety gear to get you on the track. ShopAKRA.com offers a great selection of karting equipment on a user-friendly website. Acceleration Kart Racing has aligned itself with many of the top manufacturers and distributors in the sport to ensure that all the latest equipment is available to you, the consumer. With customer support available 6 days a week, you can be confident about getting the right parts at the right price. Be sure to visit shopakr.com today or stop by their headquarters in Las Vegas. Also, follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest specials, clearance items, and new products. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network and episode 66 of the EKN Debrief. It's August the 4th, and David Cole, myself, Rob Howden, discussing and reviewing this past weekend's event at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the fourth running of the USAC karting Battle at the Brickyard. We're going to jump into the paddock pass now, where we'll talk about some of the little bits of stuff that kind of jumped out at us, some of the news that really didn't happen on the racetrack. And this edition of the paddock pass is presented by Stilo USA. As a world leader in personal racing safety products, Simpson Performance Products is now the official North American distributor for Stilo helmets. In addition to their popular auto racing helmets, Stilo is excited to have made their move into karting. Stilo has two helmets designed and manufactured specifically for karting: the ST5 CMR 2016 for kids and the ST5 Kart Snell K 2015 for adults. For more information, check them out at www.simpsonperformanceraceproducts.com/Stilo or by following them on social media at Stilo USA. All right, David, let's jump into the paddock pass. I think one of the, obviously the amazing atmosphere being at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the pagoda's there, grandstands all around us, just you're there. You said the first things first. To come into the racetrack, you got to drive under the tunnel and emerge looking straight at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum, which is absolutely badass. But a new paddock space, I think that was one of the interesting things. We moved over from beside the dirt track, actually into the paddock, right behind the grandstands, right in essentially the shadow of the pagoda.
Yeah, as you said, the pagoda is the landmark of the iconic landmark of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the new paddock certainly brought us closer to that landmark and moving us away, as you said, from inside turn 3 in the grass areas there to technically what is behind the terrace grandstands and behind the pagoda. Lots of basically where the USAC quarter midgets were at last year was our paddock. We used the paved area along with the grass area. So everybody had plenty of room. That's one thing I noticed. Everybody was grouped together with who they wanted to be with, but there was plenty of space if you needed it to be between trailers for social distancing. Yeah, so next year I hope they kind of tighten up the paddock area. We'll be able to, at least, because there'll be no more COVID hopefully next year, and so we're not so spread out throughout the paved area, because there was a lot of space that could have been utilized to put people together. But I think overall, because you're pushing carts on the pavement, that helps, instead of the rocks and grass like we were.
I like that
last year.
Well, I was on the grass a little bit with Margay, though.
I mean, it wasn't a lot. I mean, come on,
bro.
Seriously, it was like 10 feet that you had to push in grass. It wasn't much.
No, last year I was pushing in grass for 10 feet and was right there. I wasn't beside the paddock this time.
And
you were good.
But the pathways last year for everybody was rock, and that's not easy to do, especially with those European kart stands. You don't want to. You need a streeter to be able to get through those things.
That's it.
It was very unique being there. It made you feel more like an Indianapolis Motor Speedway racer than being closer to the grandstands, especially having the grid right there underneath the terrace stand.
Dude, I like that a lot.
And the announcer's booth. I mean, that view up there, you happen to join Randy Kugler and Mr. Caleb Smock up top there and see a great view. So they got to see everything. And so they were able to keep everybody informed as to exactly what was going on the racetrack.
Yeah, David, obviously Randy Kugler and Caleb Smock, as you said, were on the PA, and they spent some money and brought in a really nice sound system that played out from the very top of the grandstands back over. And it was crisp and clean. And a shout out to Randy and Caleb, a couple of guys. Randy's been around the sport for a long time. He's been announcing races for a long, long time. You got Caleb, who's only 20 years of age, young, just starting to get into the commentary world in terms of karting play-by-play. He did a tremendous job. I was really impressed. And I took the time to walk up to the corner of that grandstand on the back because I wanted to talk to them. I wanted to tell them how great of a job they were doing. They were really playing off each other well. And then I got a chance to see the racetrack. For those of you who didn't go up there, obviously not everybody could get up there. Wow. They could see everything and just a beautiful view, obviously able to call from there. But David, that kind of segues into the racetrack too. Big difference in the racetrack. I think it became a lot less technical, a lot more putting pressure on, make sure you had the gear correctly. You were able to maintain a lot of speed, gear going to, hey, do you go tall to be able to get the top speed? You want to be able to get out of the hairpin, whatever it may be. Bottom line is a new track layout. I think to probably try to keep us off the grass a little bit.
Yeah. Well, part of it, the first revised section was the bus stop area. The previous course allowed us to go just a little bit onto the oval there, a little bit where the oval and the GP course meets. This year we weren't able to because Saturday they had 2-seater rides all day long. So that closed off the oval section for us, thus kind of revamping that section of the racetrack. And in that section, it was bumpy going in, and
I like it. Yeah.
And but it was flat out, especially in Briggs. I heard talking to some Miami guys, almost flat out, if you had the cojones to get through there. So, so it was, so that kind of eliminated the any type of challenge through there, really, because it didn't really separate the gap or gap anybody. And then last year's pit in, we had some walls there to kind of make for a tighter right-hand corner. Well, this year it was just straight through the what is the Formula One section of the GP course, and that obviously brought the speeds up a lot more, and provided, again, as you said, unchallenging section, but made the bump drafting and just drafting period so much more important to get to that left-hand sweeper. The right-hander after that, as you get onto Holman Boulevard, it was a little bit more wide open than last year, but still a bit challenging. Bumps going in, under braking, but not as challenging as last year because, as you said, the goal was to stay off the grass. Obviously, some guys didn't because racing happens and you kind of have to go off. I actually had to go off in the final there to avoid a bunch of wrecks. But essentially, you're going to have to go off in the grass in certain areas of the racetrack. But it wasn't that what we saw last year, where the grass line was faster than the pavement line.
That's it.
That was eliminated. So that was gone. But overall, this racetrack was essentially a road racing track with a hairpin thrown into it. And
that's about it. I would like to say that I didn't go to the grass, but I did in the Margay Ignite final. After I got spun in the opening hairpin, I got driven into the grass about 3 or 4 laps later. Coming out of turn 1, I was on the outside and got driven off the track there. And then, of course, the incident that collected you in the heat race in Briggs 206 Masters, I had to go actually to the grass on the inside of the left-hand sweeper to not hit that driver who spun around. So
let's not talk about that one.
Oh, we're gonna get a chance to talk about that, and we're gonna get a chance to focus on hashtag Beat David Cole. It was awesome. All right. So one of the things, David, you have on the notes, and it's good, is no scale issues this year. There was a lot of issues with the scales last year. They had 2 sets. And yeah, it seems to me like things were really good all weekend long. No issues at all.
No, they, we tried. They had one set up early Friday, and then added the second one, I believe, once qualifying began. And I'm not quite sure. I think they had the top 5 finishers go on one, and the rest go on another, or at least during practice, or after that, everybody else could use whichever scale they wanted. But utilizing both, I didn't find any issues between either. We didn't have any stoppage for scaling to wait for something to be fixed. So that was a great hurdle that they had to overcome over the last 2 years, was getting that fixed and set up right. And thankfully they were able to do that. Early on, I guess people were complaining about the scales, and I was like, no, they're pretty spot on. I'm 200 pounds and it weighs me at 200 pounds. Yeah, so,
good.
We even did, I think you did the Margay by itself, and Keith Freber sat right there and said, nope, this is exactly what this cart's supposed to weigh. So
156, I think it was, something like that. 156, like bang on. That's exactly what we expected. So it was good. Here's one thing that came around the pipe. We're all kind of, it's Indy, so I guess we can do this. 3 wide starts. That was in the heats and pre-finals, 3 wide starts. I qualified second in Margay Ignite Masters, so I'm good. I'm in the front row, middle of the front row. I'm okay with that. I qualified 30th in Briggs 206. Outside of row 10, I was okay with that. I don't think I was ever in a middle row back. I was either on the inside or the outside. I think it was 27th in one, 19th in another, which put me on the inside of row, whatever that was, inside of row. No, I was actually might have been in the middle there. Oh, no, I was on the outside again. That's it. Outside of row number, what is that, 9? It was, dude, it
Math
was
is hard. Math is hard.
I'm a writer, for Christ's sakes. Interesting through one, that's for sure.
Well, I'm gonna be the guy that takes the blame for it.
I heard about this about you, you dick. Go.
I hear music. Somebody's playing music.
That's my. That's my. I have my phone off.
It was distracting me. Sorry. So I am going to take the blame. Yeah. That's kind of like how a lot of the Masters drivers were driving this weekend.
Oh, dude, no doubt about it. All right, let's not throw them under the bus right now. Let's go into the EKN confessional.
I must confess, it was me who came up with the 3 wide. Now, ironic. So I am. I was sitting, I just happened to walk up to the grid area to see kind of how things were going to shake up there, and Rick Fulks and Mike Burrell and Jason Burgess and all the other, co-race directors or officials were all standing there, and they're looking at the space and how to do social distancing for the grid, et cetera. And I said, we'll just do it 3 wide, and then we'll sort it down to 2 wide. And then they go, well, it's Indy. We could start 3 wide. And so that what started the conversation right there. And as you know, Mike and Jason are very Indy based and love that tradition of Indy. And they said, well, let's just start them 3 wide. And I'm like, well, it is kind of wide enough, isn't it? And technically it is, but unfortunately racers don't see the whole racetrack. They see who's next to them. And, once you put that helmet on, everything just goes away. And the concept was good. Essentially, everybody gets 3 to 4 wide when you're going into the left-hander by the time you get there after the starting line. But essentially, the officials looked at it and said, you know what, let's just go back to 2. And I think it was my Yamaha pre-final, because we were towards the end of the order and they had already started converting to 2 wide, starting grids. So it was at the end of the pre-finals when they decided to make the change. And then thus all the main events were in the 2 wide fashion. But it was a unique thing. It doesn't hurt to try it. They tried it. Some starts were great.
Yeah.
When you got 60 carts out there going 3 wide at the start, it's a little bit chaotic. But
I will say this, hey Dave, I will say this. It allowed those guys that qualified, like myself, who qualified poorly at one point. It's a good opportunity to get a jump forward.
Oh, there were a number of guys who took advantage of it.
Had that guy not spun and taken you out, I had got such a good run from, again, the 10th row. I was 30th. I should have been the 15th row. I was on the outside of the 10th row. I got a good run. Most guys moved to the outside to set up. I was coming in. That guy spun, you hit him, and I went to the inside. Like, I was really only about 4 car lengths behind. You started 12th. So I would have taken full advantage of it. And I think a lot of people did, because it brought the front of the back of the grid so much closer together. And then we went back to main events. If you start, as you know, Dave, you started because of the issues further back in the final. Had we went 3 wide, there was a good possibility you would have been able to get a better jump.
Yeah, it would have probably helped me in the main event.
Yeah.
Pre-final, it kind of did, but we had a red flag, so it kind of halted everything, and we had to start single file, which again, I think we were going through turn 1 when everybody got the green flag. So that really sucked going single file restart at that. And because that's one thing I do think they need to look at for next year is setting up a I hate to say it, but a starting area, because it seemed to me that as soon as we got through turn 2, it was gas on and go. So there was no slow starts whatsoever. It was nearly full speed by the time we reached the green flag. I think there was.
Yeah, they were pushing. Obviously I started 27th there, and I was getting pushed to the back, and everybody was essentially on the throttle. Coming not quite right at it. No, Matt, you know what? Yeah, probably by the time we were coming out of 2 there, we were probably on the throttle.
Oh yeah, right. Every start I was in that I recall. I mean, it was on it. But the single file start was 60 carts. That was a lot of. I couldn't even see the front of the field when we came around.
I know we weren't like that in Margay Ignite Masters, because I started right behind Tim Hannon, I think, and one right behind maybe Doty in the other, or Doug. I think I might have been behind Kittleson, and we were super slow coming out of 2. Like, we didn't even spool up until we started making the right turn. So kudos again to the Masters drivers in Ignite, especially those up front, just talented drivers. And
there was
we took care of each other.
There was 500 years of experience of karting in that top 10.
That's true. That's very true. And all the championship belonged to Doty and Scharf and Hannon.
Yeah,
none over here.
No. Zero.
Hey, let's talk about the mixture of teams as we continue with this edition of the Paddock Pass, again brought to you by Stilo USA for this edition of the EKN Debrief. A really cool mixture. You had, of course, Margay there. You had the Comet Kart Sales dudes. You had Amax Racing. They were there. Trinity Karting Group. Power Kart. Man, just a really good. You keep going. Just keep going with some great names.
Yeah, as we mentioned, Mike Doty jumped in back behind the wheel for the first time, brought his race team there, was convinced by the people at OVRP and Tim Hannon to take part in the event. Obviously, certainly happy they were there. Checkered Motorsports, MGM had their big contingent there in the Briggs categories. Syntec had the big hauler there as well. DRT Racing with the DR kart. So a number of big teams that we typically see at USPKS, SCUSA, all the other WK events, all those other programs there. And again, if we can get a lock on an annual date, I think that's something that a lot of these race teams can kind of pencil around and move their schedules around. Certainly with the COVID situation and the movement from the 4th of July weekend because of NASCAR at the beginning, because of NASCAR down to the end of July, hopefully, if USAC karting is able to continue this event in future years, that we get an annual date, similar to what we have at Rock Island Grand Prix or Daytona Kart Week, something, again, this is kind of going to be that summer event that everybody should check off their bucket list.
Yeah, and you bring it up. It's called date equity, right? Just give us that date equity. Give us that one date we all know and everybody can get around it. You mentioned a lot of great big teams as well, lots of grassroots racers as well. We had a number of drivers that were pitting out of the back of their pickup truck, the small, 10-foot trailer. And we'll also give a shout out to the guys with their brand new trailer, David. Their suits didn't come in on time, but they had the new trailer there. The guys from Racing for Vets were there as well with the full squad. So it was awesome to have those dudes there as well.
It was really cool to see. Luckily they were put right on the walkway and the driveway. Yeah. So every time I went from one cart to the other, I was able to walk by. And man, those guys were working hard every single minute of the day, just making sure everything was done right and put together right. And obviously, it took a big, a good team to put together the rides for the 5 drivers that they had there this weekend, and it looks like they enjoyed every single minute of the event.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Now, David, obviously the iconic brick is what they brought out. Of course, the Brickyard, the Yard of Bricks at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, part of the history of the track itself. At one point, it was nothing but bricks. That's one of the big trophies. They also came up with an award called the Mickey Rupp Award. Now, Mickey Rupp was really the first ever karter to run in the Indianapolis 500. And that's an award, David, that they give to the participant they believe who best embodies the spirit of the Indianapolis 500 through karting. Stephen Flatt won it in 2017. Ron Peterson in 2018. Last year, Steve Kilsdonk. This year, dual winners and two guys that we love hanging around.
Yeah, I got to race with one of them. I think you got to race with the other. I raced with Tom.
I raced with both guys.
Well, I guess I didn't get up quick enough to get up to Ryan Pickering, but Tom had the great idea to run rain tires in the pre-final, and so he came back to the back of the field.
That didn't work,
and that didn't work because it didn't ever rain for our race. But yeah, I mean, if you see guys wearing helmets around the paddock, it was these two guys because they just they love it. I love the image that we shared earlier today of them sitting outside the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, trying to peek through, watching the GP race that was held over the 4th of July weekend. But just, and then their body works, the graphic hits that they both had, and the rest of the team were all based off of old Indy cars that they were very fond of back in the day. I believe Tom's was the STP look.
The Gordon Johncock, I think.
Yep, with the Gordon Johncock. I'm not quite sure Pickering. I think it was the Danny Sullivan, maybe.
He had the Miller. He had the Miller, Danny Sullivan spin and win.
Spin and win, exactly.
I had a chance to run with Ryan quite a bit. I ended up getting up with him, and when Jeff Smith and I were coming forward, Jeff Hill and I were coming forward, I ended up running there with Ryan for a bit and was able to sneak by him, I think, in the pre-final. But no, you know what? Just two guys that absolutely love the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indy 500. Ryan actually just lives just outside the front straightaway. He lives right there. You know, Tom and Ryan both spent a lot of time kind of promoting the race and being Indy 500 fans. Just two guys most definitely deserving of the Mickey Rupp Award, and it was cool to see that when things were all wrapped up for the day. All right, let's go to our second break here, folks. When we get back, we're gonna hit a little bit of a race reports. Then we'll wrap things up. David and I will talk about our own racing before we jump in to the EKN Trackside Live race calendar for the remainder of the 2020 season. Stay with us, folks. More to come here on the EKN Radio Network. Fast, fair, and fun. The Margay Ignite Spec program offers you all of that and at an affordable price. The all-new IgniteKarting.com website provides you with the information you need to fuel your passion for kart racing. Ignite Karting is a spec package that begins with the Margay Racing chassis and adds in the incredible Briggs 206 engine package and the American-made Hoosier R80 tire. The Ignite K2 chassis is for ages 8 to 12, while the Ignite K3 is available for junior, senior, and masters drivers. The new look 2020 season will feature a handful of major events for Ignite Karting racers, including the USAC Karting Battle at the Brickyard on July 31st to August 2nd. Held inside the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, drivers not only race the historic facility, but they also have a chance to take a lap around the famed 2.5-mile oval and the iconic Yard of Bricks. All information on Ignite events throughout the country, Ignite kart packages, and the dealers in your area are available at IgniteKarting.com. So get off the couch and on the track this year. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion. Experience and passion. That's what led to the launch of AMAX Racing. Owner Charles Maxwell began AMAX Racing in 2015, expanding the operation in 2019 with a focus on driver development for drivers of all age groups and backgrounds. From top-level drivers to grassroots racers or families looking for a team that will help them achieve their goals, AMAX Racing can guide you with the absolute best trackside service at affordable prices. No matter the chassis, AMAX Racing welcomes you and has the experience to put you on the top of the podium. You can join the AMAX Racing family at the WK Manufacturers Cup Series, Route 66 Sprint Series, and local events around the Indianapolis area. The operation is also set to compete at the Rock the Rio and SCUSA Super Nationals later this season. For more information, contact them at 317-437-5886 or find them on Facebook. AMAX Racing, all of your karting needs under 110. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, episode number 66 of the EKN Debrief. David Cole, myself, Rob Howden, doing our kind of review of the 2020 USAC karting battle at the Brickyard. David, we went through the paddock pass already. We talked about the intro. Let's jump into a race report a little bit, but before that, let me tell you the race report today brought to you by Comet Kart Sales. History, success, family. These are the three words that describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation is located just outside of Indianapolis and has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in the near 6 decades of business. Their online store features everything you need, and they are continually adding new parts to their product line. Make sure you head to cometkartsales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today. Easy for me to say that, David, because we've spent last year with Comet Kart Sales, this year with Comet Kart Sales, with Mark Dismore, of course, Logan and Garrett, Gary Lawson, the whole crew there, Colton Smith working on our stuff. Always a pleasure to be with them, and I love driving that Comet Eagle. I love that kart, man.
A lot of people are looking at him. Obviously, Gary's success over the last, 5 years since he's been with Comet Kart Sales, and just what they've done with the chassis program there with Comet and the Eagle, not to mention the Comet Racing Engine program as well too. So you combine all those components together, it's a great package, and again, a great family to just hang out at the racetrack all weekend long with.
Let's jump into some of the races. We'll kind of go through the list of drivers that won. We'll talk a little bit about the races that we watched. We're not able to do a full debrief, David, because you and I are running back and forth and working on our own karts or whatever it may be, moving from side to side. We'll start with the Briggs 206 Masters category. Of course, we were in this race, so we really didn't get to see a lot of it ourselves. Gary Lawson coming home with the win. Gary's he's just one of those guys that's going to be tough to beat. I mean, whenever he unloads, he's a legend in the sport, and he's eventually going to find his way forward.
Well, it was scary to see his name in the Masters category because this was his first year, at least at Battle of the Brickyard, because he's done it at Rock Island last year. So we knew it was inevitable, but we weren't quite sure. So he decided to run heavy and Masters this year instead of medium and heavy, which he won both. He won both categories the last 2 years. So technically, this is his 5th brick that he's won. So he's leading all drivers now with 5 bricks of his own. Winning bricks, that is. And another great performance by him. We tried to hang with him in qualifying. It didn't quite work out as we hoped. But it was great to work with him because, again, we knew whatever he was doing would work for us. So we knew we were going to have a fast package, but kudos to him for going out and getting a 5th brick.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Cameron Gruber, winner in the Briggs 206 junior class. And David, I was able to get up to the fence for a bit of it, but Elmer Edmondson going wins in both medium and heavy. Nice little statement being made there. Yeah,
the young driver out of Florida, I believe he turned 15 last year, so he'll be 16 here pretty soon. Young driver out of Florida, just was able to get the right pace at the right time on the weekend. I don't think he was quite there in the heavy category. I think he came all the way up from 12th, I believe it was, up to the victory in heavy category. Both races, though, in heavy and medium, he was flanked by none other than Eric Fagan, a former Briggs & Stratton Weekly Racing Series top driver, both running in the MGM. So it gave MGM a 1-2 finish in both medium and heavy. So great performance by those two drivers.
I heard those names were almost, like one big name, right? Elmer Edmondson, Eric Fagan was like, that's all I ever kept hearing when we were going back and forth when those races were on. Margay Ignite Senior, we'll look at the Ignite categories. Junior will start with Isaac Wells scoring the win in the Margay Ignite Junior, but Evan Stammer, obviously kind of like a Margay kind of factory driver, but man, he has really shown himself to be one of the lead four-cycle pilots in the country.
Well, he's got a victory at Daytona. He's got a victory at Rock Island, and now he can add Indianapolis Motor Speedway to his list of Ignite victories. Nice. So pretty solid resume that he continues to build under the Ignite program. Not a bad laydown road racer as well. He's been working with the Folks guys, brothers here and there. So he's done pretty well in the laydown categories here and there. So yeah, great to see. It was a great race. I was right after my Yamaha race, so I wasn't able to actually watch it, but was able to listen to it, and ended up being a great race between him, Jordan Bernlohr, another former Rock Island winner, and Zach Skolnick, who was leading at the white flag, but Stammer went from third to first on that final lap to score the victory.
Yeah, Skolnick, another guy is going to be in the fight for a race win anytime he gets behind the seat. When it comes to Margate Ignite Masters, it's interesting, folks. Those of you who may have followed a lot of our EKN debriefs here is talk about Mike Doty Racing. Obviously, one of the top national teams, Brandon Jarsocrat driving for that squad now, along with a number of top drivers, young drivers that have come through Mike's program. Well, the guy can drive, and I think he probably just, I don't know if it was kind of a bet for him to get here. You probably have more information, but he decides he's going to come. Tim Hannon probably beating on him to come and have some fun there. Well, Doty was like a factory Margay driver back in the 90s. I don't know, most people don't know that. But man, the minute he jumped behind there, was in the category that I was racing with. I was thrilled that I out qualified him, in the timed run earlier. But man, I knew when we were going wheel to wheel racing that it was going to be tough to have the chops to hang with Mike. He is just an unbelievably talented driver.
Well, I believe you were in that lead group at one point, weren't you, Rob?
I ran second, baby, through the pre-final. Was it the pre-final? Yeah, no. Yeah, the pre-final. I pushed Tim Hannon around throughout that entire pre-final.
Yes.
I was not leaving my wingman.
No, you didn't until you made the mistake.
One mistake and
then
him and Doug Kittleson.
Yeah. And then you fell to fourth. But it was really cool to see Mike Doty, because I don't think I recall ever watching him race in the past. So I've seen him as a team manager, mechanic. He's very relaxed, but he's very, very focused on getting the job done correct, the right way, and getting the job done. So it's a different demeanor as Mike Doty, the team manager or mechanic, compared to the Mike Doty racer, because he was not there to finish second. He was there to lead laps and win.
I'm leading laps. That was funny. But yeah, big win from Mike. He actually was in the hunt throughout the weekend in the other categories as well. That was I think the closest finish probably of the weekend too. He was side by side with Tim Hannon, right?
Yeah, one of the closest finish. I believe it was 35 thousandths of a second at the line. Hannon tried to get him at the line. Doty led the majority of the race, but Hannon just came up short at the line by 35 thousandths, I believe it was. But a great finish by those two. So New York 1-2.
That's it. We'll talk more about the pre-final finish of Margay Ignite Masters when you and I talk about our particular races. Let's go to Yamaha now. Probably a guy that I wonder if you go out and figure out how many races he's actually won this year. He may have won more races than anybody else. Adam Maxwell with AMAX Racing getting the win in Yamaha Senior. A good run for him. Matt Darlison getting the win in Yamaha Junior. And I should be saying David Cole, I'm not sure what happened, but Michael Dittmer scoring the win in Yamaha Masters.
Well, let me get back to Yamaha Senior first. Adam Maxwell actually was a
good battle at the end.
He wasn't able to record a lap in qualifying. Something happened on the out lap and started from the back of the group in the heat race, worked his way, I think, up to third, and then in the heat race. And then from there, just was able to battle for the victory all the rest of the weekend and score that victory. Obviously, it probably dedicating it to the passing of John Martin. Maxwell was a racing, just getting started with the R-Kart shifter kart program there in Indianapolis at Whiteland Raceway Park. But the passing of John Martin recently, so dedicating that victory to him. But I didn't get to see much of the junior race except for when they went by me. There were the top two drivers, Darlison, and I believe I want to get her name right here just a second. But yeah, I know they lapped me in one of the heat races. I was like, man, these kids are fast. But again, that lightweight compared to my fat ass, it's gonna, they're gonna drive away.
That's it.
But no, it was Addison. Oh man, I can't say her last name. Ionelio. Yeah.
That's probably a good shot.
Ionelio. So they were 1-2.
Was she the young lady with the Rossi numbers?
46.
Valentina Rossi,
correct.
46. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, I saw that.
But she actually, they finished 1-2, but she actually was removed in tech for a tech issue. So that took away that possible podium finish for her. But it's still a great run by her because they were nose to the tail all weekend long. But yeah, if you want to get in the Yamaha Masters, we'll just say Dittmer essentially nearly swept the weekend, aside from a pre-final blemish that he had.
That's it.
I'll let you talk about it because you got to watch it.
You're a blemish. You are a blemish.
I look like a blemish.
Listen, we'll talk about that when we get to your race.
All right.
After the next part of the race report. Let's go to FK 100 Junior and Senior. Sam Corey with the win in the junior category. I didn't get a chance to watch that one.
That one ended red flag. There was a incident on the front stretch. Driver checked out to be okay, I believe, but red flagged it early, and they called it because the race went past the halfway point, and that was only the second race of the day, so they were trying to keep on schedule. So that race was called early, and Sam Corey was leading the way. So he picked up actually his second Brick Trophy, winning Briggs Junior last year, Briggs 206 Junior last year. So he's got 2 victories.
FK 100 Senior, Chase Jones getting the win on the Will Power card. That was that last lap battle, was it not?
Yeah, him and Luca Mars were going at it, I believe, all weekend long. Yeah, they went at it all weekend long. One won the heat race, the other won the pre-final, and it was just a battle in the final. Ending up with a little bit of contact in the hairpin, and then a race to the checkered flag. I believe this might have been the closest finish. Let me double check on that. But it was, because when I did the race report, I couldn't believe how close they were at the finish line. It was 4 thousandths of a second. So 4 thousandths of a second separating the two at the line.
One of the things you put in the race report, David, I thought was interesting, and I think actually, do we now have the first brothers and the first father-son?
Yes, so we have the first brothers that have won at the Brickyard, and we have the first father-son duo to win at the Brickyard. I love it.
So let's go Miami Senior, Finnegan Bailiff getting the race win. His brother Gavin already with victory last year, I think, right? Last year for Gavin? Or 2 years last year for Gavin?
I want to say it was 2018 that Gavin won in the Miami Junior category. Yes.
There you go, David. Well done. And then in the 125 Shifter Senior and Shifter Masters category, Josh Lane didn't even come on Friday. Didn't practice.
Wasn't
even
qualify.
There. Wasn't even there. Wasn't even there. Ends up immediately going to the front. The Wild Thing scoring the win in 125cc Shifter Senior, and his dad Lance Lane, the endurance athlete, getting another win in the Shifter Masters category. They're just listen. They're shifter legends in our sport and did a tremendous job again.
And Josh is coming off surgery. He just had some surgery on his wrist and elbows to kind of help with some injuries that he had. Not only karting, I believe, but also motocross racing and snowmobile racing. But so coming off surgery to be able to perform. But he's a road racer at heart. So him and Lance, they love this, 100 miles an hour, no problem. Balls to the wall, go for it.
Josh looked pretty good too. Didn't look as fat as he usually does.
No, that was the comment going around on social media, was how skinny he looked, and I would assume the surgeries probably helped with that, because he probably couldn't grab all the food he wanted to eat.
That's it. He's probably been having like a liquid diet. It's worked for him. That's good. That's good. Speaking of double winners, obviously the two brothers. We got the father-son. John Crow doing it on his own as well. The Crow Show winning in both Miami Masters and Miami SSE 175 Masters. A veteran driver. John's actually back in Indianapolis working for Andretti Autosport, I believe. Is he with Andretti, right? Or is he with
Andretti? Yeah, he's with Andretti, and could possibly be the only guy that's going to win at the Battle of the Brickyard and then work the Indy 500.
And he could, you never know. It could be in the victory lane with the team at Indianapolis 500 as well.
There you go.
You never know. That'd be big. And then last but not least, you talked about the end in the Miami 175 senior shifter kart category. AJ Myers on the Magic was leading HMG's Devin Smith Harden at the end. And I watched the video, and I watched the video before I read your report, David, and it seems like AJ had an issue in the final, second last corner or one of the last corners, right?
Yeah, second to last corner, had the rear gear spin on him and break and lose all power to the axle, thus putting him on the sidelines with 2 corners to go. He felt it going, a few laps before then, was just hoping it would last and last and last. Unfortunately, it didn't last until the checkered flag. But Devin Smith Harden definitely put the pressure on him all race long. So it was a great race to watch. It's up on YouTube right now, and great to see him win another Brick Trophy. I believe he won the in 2018, and then I believe it was the 80 shifter category that he won in 2017.
And for me, watching the end of that after he scored the victory, which was just a complete outpouring of the raw emotion, right? It really showed you what it means to win here in Indianapolis. Now, these guys run around Indy, right? That's what they do. This is their hood, and to see that team, and Devin win that race, man, just a couple days after his birthday as well, too. So obviously you can see the emotion of winning. Which is
I love the comment that somebody put, the willpower moment, where he's just, you could hear him scream. You could hear him screaming in the helmet as he's doing his cool down lap. That was awesome.
Yep. That's exactly that. All right, folks, one more break in the action here, and we'll wrap up this EKN debrief. We're going to talk about the racing I was able to do, the racing that David was able to do, how embarrassingly bad I kicked his ass in the one category, and again, beat David Cole. We'll talk a lot about that, and then we'll wrap things up with the EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar. Right, Dave?
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Stay with us, folks. We'll wrap this up after this commercial. In karting, it's important to be supported by the right people. With over 40 years of experience in the sport, Trinity Karting Group has everything you need to make your program successful. We do it all, and we do it right. Trackside support and arrive and drive programs at many of karting's biggest East Coast events, full product sales and service, and professional coaching from our experienced staff. Trinity Karting Group is a full-service operation based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, which gives us access to our custom-designed driver training facility. This allows us to offer private one-on-one coaching to take you to the next level. We're also your Midwest home for Tony Kart and IAME, and we're your source for MG and Evenco tires in the region. Tony Kart quality cannot be beat, so call us today to put you in a new chassis for your next event. In 2020, we'll be racing and providing arrive and drive programs for the full SuperKarts USA Pro Tour and the Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge, the WK's Kart Week in Daytona, and exciting events like the USAC Battle at the Brickyard and the Rock Island Grand Prix. From arrive and drive and coaching programs to the parts you need, let Trinity Karting Group provide you with customer service and a racing experience second to none. Trinity Karting Group has a long history in the sport, a winning pedigree, and we're dedicated to driver development. We take pride in our professional approach and our positive attitude. Let us build a custom race program for you. Give us a call at 513-421-4463 or check us out online at trinitykartinggroup.com. "2019 was a great year, no question. But the off-season is here, and I know that your mind is already thinking about next season. We all want to get better and improve our skills and our racecraft. And maybe you're tired of missing the podium or even the championship. So what do? Here's what I think. Take a breather from throwing money at the newest speed secret and a new chassis you don't quite need yet. Invest in yourself. Take yourself to the next level as a driver. If you want to improve your results, do what every athlete does, regardless of the sport. Get professional coaching. And in karting, there's only one choice. The Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, located at the state-of-the-art Speed Sports Racing Park in Houston. Alan Rudolph is a legend in our sport, and he's been a coach for over 15 years. The Alan Rudolph Racing Academy offers custom coaching programs for newcomers and experienced racers alike. Train with a champion with over 30 years of racing experience to get proven results. Get ready for 2020 by calling 866-607-7223 or head to speedsportsracingpark.com to learn more. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, episode number 66 of the EKN Debrief, as we wrap up our review of the 2020 USAC Karting Battle at the Brickyard at the iconic Indianapolis Motor Speedway. David, you and I got a chance to do some racing again, head-to-head in Briggs 206 Masters. I jumped behind the wheel of the Margay Ignite Masters as well, and you pulled out the Aluminos and a 5-year-old KT100. You end up having to rebuild the carburetor halfway through. Where do you want to start? You want to start with your Masters stuff, your Yamaha first?
I mean, we can, yeah. I essentially just was doing it to get extra track time. It seemed like last year I wasn't really comfortable until Sunday. And so I thought, well, what if I do two classes like Howden did? You looked a little bit more comfortable than I did.
For sure.
And so essentially, I think because of the way the track changed, I don't think it really mattered much, but it was still nice to get out there. and drive around the Yamaha. I hadn't driven a Yamaha since 2015. And I completely had forgotten how much it screams when it's running at only 12 to 13,000 RPMs. I completely forgot the sound of it that it makes. You sit on the sidelines. It's a different story than inside the seat.
Well, I ran the vintage last year, my vintage Margay that Mike Birdsell built for me with the Yamaha, and I'm like, man, I didn't want to blow it up. It was just scream. I didn't know what gear we had on. We didn't have a tack on it on the vintage. I didn't want to blow it up, but dude, it screams around there. That's no doubt.
And that was one of my issues the first session, because I had the gauge set up for 4-cycle instead of 2-cycle. So I essentially did a lap and a half and then came in because I didn't want to blow it up. Hadn't run the engine anywhere except sitting on the shelf for the last 5 years. So
let's set the stage first. That's what I want to say. So, we have this Aluminos 4-cycle chassis. We wanted to have a chassis that you were going to be able to have at your place to be able to run. This is a number of years ago. Rob Soros, we hooked up with Rob. We got you an Aluminos, and you put the 206 on it. You got this cart sitting there. Your dad's got a Comet KT100 sitting on the shop. You end up putting stuff together. You get a clutch. You put this package together and you go racing. You've never raced it before. You've never had the Yamaha on top of the Aluminos. You qualify 6th. You finish 9th in the heat race. And all of a sudden, I go, I got some time. I'm going to watch. I didn't get a chance to watch. I'm going to go watch Dave in the pre-final. And dude, you were on the move in that pre-final.
Well, yeah, you were done early because your categories were in the early part of the schedule. My Yamaha was towards the end of the day. Well, by qualifying, I thought I had it figured out. It dropped like 4 teeth from where I had started because, the gearing was based on last year's track. So obviously dropping teeth because it's just so quick. So qualifying was able to get some drafting with some drivers. And it was only really my 3rd session at speed. So got 6, which was okay. It wasn't too bad because again, engine's 5 years off the shelf. Get into the heat race and wouldn't want to take off when they waved the green flag. And it just seemed like the power was off. So took it over to the Comet Racing Engines and he was like, yeah, I'm sure he's like, when was the last time you put a carb kit in it? Well, I said, it's been sitting on the shelf for 5 years. So 5 years ago. And so Mark put a carb kit. Let me tell you, it was disgustingly gross and stretched out in there. It was not good. So the engine came a little bit to life, but in the pre-final, but really, to be honest, it was just everybody crashing in front of me that allowed me to go up basically from 9th to 2nd, and in a matter of a few corners here and there, and got on the back of Michael Dittmer, who I've watched at Rock Island over the last probably 16 years that I've been going there. Right. And I'm like, well, Mike Welch is not around us, so I'm going to be his wingman this race. And it's that Dylan Tavella style of just push the leader away from everybody else, and we'll decide it on the final lap. And that's what we did. He did a little defensive lines here and there, but he was just terrible going out of the hairpin, and so I gapped him just enough to be able to get a good run, and was able to edge out for the pre-final win at the line.
Scores the pre-final win at the line. That was awesome. Main event time, though, didn't quite go as well. It looked to me from where I was watching, I was on top of the Comet trailer, I believe, for that one. And it just seems to me like 3rd back to 6th, where you got nobody wanted to work together at all. It was actually pretty ridiculous. You guys were going back and forth, left and right, dive bombing each other, and that just allowed Dittmer and Welsh to get away.
Yeah, it was a bit chaotic in the early. I started on pole again. I think the engine needs a piston or ring because the thing just wouldn't take off once the green flag waved. So Dittmer and Welsh were able to hook up right away and kind of get a little gap on us. But the rest of the drivers just did not want to stay in line, and essentially they were able to pull away early on. And so essentially it was a race for 3rd for all 14 laps. And I talked with Mark. He said, if you're going to make any changes, go down a tooth. And I didn't do it. I said, I'll just leave it alone and see what happens. And I should have went down because again, the conditions were a lot warmer and hotter than it had been all weekend long. And just, I did not have the speed to, once I had any type of air hit the front front of the cart, it bogged down pretty quick. So that essentially ended my race. I was just kind of the last couple of laps, just kind of sat back and watched them race for third, and lo and behold, they make contact in the hairpin, and I was able to grab 2 spots and finish fourth. Obviously, I was hoping for third. That was my goal going in, knowing that Welsh and Dittmer were racing. But
that's right.
So 1 spot short of my goal is not too bad.
All right, so let's jump into my time with the Ignite Masters class. It was interesting because I was kind of just chilled out during the practice sessions. Again, my friend Drew Neubauer, we talked about Drew coming up, first time with the program, and I was kind of trying to help him, get him to draft with me, and he was trying to figure out the chassis, how he wanted it to work for the way he drives, and so we just kind of cruised around. I don't think I ran in the draft at all during the first 3 practice sessions, so I was down in the 20s, I think, for the whole time. Well, obviously when it came time to go qualifying, I was getting a little bit more serious, moved my way up, dropped the cart in behind Phil Pignataro, and said, Phil, let's go. Let's see what we can do. And again, it was another, Cole, you and I laugh all the time about using the Top Gun references, but I wasn't leaving my wingman. I was staying with Pignataro. I was gonna push him. I think he had a little taller gear than I did, and I was geared to come off the hairpin. I pushed him out of the hairpin and down into one, and he kind of dragged me all the way up the straightaways. And man, I had no idea what was going on. I was pushing. Cart felt good. I didn't lift. Came off, and all of a sudden I hear my name, Randy Kugler, screaming my name out on the PA. And I was P2. So
and it was the last lap, if I recall, because I was thinking, okay, you're top 5, you're good, and then boom, you crossed the line and jumped right up into the second position, and it was kind of a shock. But as you said, you're running with Piggy there, and that guy knows how to move. And as you said, if you get hooked up with the right person, like you can lay down some laps. And I think it was 78 thousandths off the pole you were from.
No, I think I was 500ths. It was 800ths for the top 5. The entire top 5. That's Margay Ignite for you. The entire top 5, I believe, was 800ths of a second.
Okay, now I'm going to look it up because I think you're
right.
Go
look. You go look. Whew, damn. You go look. Pull out your race monitor and have a little look or whatever you're going to do.
I got it.
Speed Hive.
It was 700ths of a second. Sorry.
For me?
Yes, 700ths of a second off. The top 5 were nearly 900ths off each other. So Jimmy Miller. Sorry, Jimmy Miller, not Jerry Miller. Jimmy Miller, Rob Howden, Nick Todentop, Phil Pignataro, and Tim Hannon, all within 900ths of each other.
Crazy. Heat race. What happened in the heat race? I think he's 4th both. No, I think I just felt. I started. I think I fell back a little bit, and then whatever it is, I finished 4th. The pre-finals when I locked on to Tim Hannon.
You fell down to 7th, obviously, because you're like me, you have terrible starts. And
I started on the inside. I started on the inside of the front row, but the middle.
Well, you were in the middle, yeah, and I think everybody kind of went around you. You guys settled. You guys settled in, and it was. I think it was like a 6 or 7 driver lead pack. It was actually it was a fun race to watch to see how you guys kind of negotiated one another. So
I know that in the pre-final, after being told, but in the pre-final, I started behind Tim Hannon. He's on pole again, just like I did with Piggy. I was not leaving Tim. I just pushed him around for what they were. How long were they? 10 lap races. I think
10 lap was the pre-final. Yep.
So essentially, for 8 laps, I didn't let him go at all. Lap number 9, I think it was maybe lap 9. I was coming through the 2-3 combination that leads back out there, and I was too shallow on the entry. I was kind of staying away from the wall on the left side, and I just got too shallow, and it washed out at me a little bit on the exit. And Doug Kittleson and with Doty right behind him pushed right by me, and I had to tuck back into 4th and ended up finishing 4th. All in all, though, I was pretty happy with that. I made a little mistake, but still being able to show the speed to stay in the lead group made me happy. So it was. All in all, pre-final was good. Kart was good. I didn't sleep at all on Saturday night.
The pressure was on, Rob.
Yeah, it totally was. I didn't sleep at all. I was thinking about dropping a tooth to go to the 56. I elected to stay with the 57 only because I knew it was going to get me out of the hairpin the way I wanted to, and I could stay with the guys on when it got fast. First run down to the hairpin, I started my turn in, light tap from behind, and it was all over for me. I think I fell to 25th on the first lap. Battled my way back up to 19th. And then was making a pass, got hit again from behind in the hairpin. So I got bumped it around twice, fell back again, and I just kind of clawed myself back up to 15th. Now, I wasn't able to go for the race win, wasn't running up front with the guys. Obviously, I could run with both Doty and Hannon, so I would have had a chance to battle for the lead. But AJ Roderick, who was working on my stuff, we went a little different on tire pressure, a lot lower than most people. The cart at the end was an absolute rocket. AJ had it dialed in, and we made a little bit of change in the Ackerman to slow the steering down for me coming through the inner loop. The big fast sweeper, and man, it was a rocket. I was powering by guys left and right, and clubbed my way back up to 15th. So all in all, I was pretty happy with the way it ran. I know that bottom line is for me, David, if I get a chance to run with Scharf, Keith Scharf, and Phil Pignataro, and Tim Hannon, and Doug Kittleson, and Nick Todenhop, and Mike Doty, and I get, I'm in there, and I'm acquitting myself, and I'm not making an ass of myself, and maybe gaining a bit of respect. That's a win for me, big time.
Yeah, it was exciting to watch. I don't get to watch a lot of the Ignite races because a lot of times I'm in them, so it was
right.
it was really good to watch, and yeah, it was. To be able to, as you said, race alongside those names that have lots and lots of championships compared to what you have. You have the Oktoberfest victory from 1996, I believe was
1997. I beat Mark Miller and Tony Ventresca.
So, I mean, you're 23 years away from your biggest victory in your career, where, Hannon won down in Florida, I believe, in the Ignite down there in Florida. Chris Rock's a winner at Florida. Kittleson's winning in Nebraska every month. Scharf is a SCCA champion. To be able to run, and Doty's a former factory Margay driver. Come on now. Yeah. So along with Vetter, not to mention Pete Vetter.
A pistol. That's right. I was punching above my weight class for sure.
Oh, that's for sure. Good. Yeah, you were the lightweight going against the heavyweights. No doubt.
From now on, though, that's where I'm running. I'm running with those bad boys. Now, let me before we jump into our battle. This was the one thing people were howling in that pre-final where I was with Hannon and dropped back. Of course, we come out of the line, come out of the final corner, and we're all drag racing. We're essentially almost 3 wide. I think we were 3 wide. Kittleson, of course, had the lead. I pull up alongside Hannon. Hannon was about 4 inches away. He's trying to grab Doty's bumper.
It was the move of the weekend.
He was so close to grabbing the bumper to pull himself forward. I'm trying to go to the outside, but I'm laughing my ass off. I'm looking over at him.
It was the move of the weekend. I mean, we were all sitting at the exit of the hairpin looking down. We're like, did we just see what we just saw?
Oh, it was
I thought he was going after the spark plug wire. That's old school.
No, that was funny. That was good. All right, let's go into the hashtag Beat David Cole, hashtag Beat Rob Howden challenge and Briggs 206 Masters. Dave, first and foremost, we just got to give thanks to the guys from Comet Kart Sales. It was kind of a late call to get me in there with you as well. I'll just say this: if there's carts I would buy, I would love to have that cart in my garage. It looks fantastic. I love driving it. I love the seat as well. The lay down seat from Beasley Fiberglass. I love that seat. Just makes me feel really comfortable, and I just love the feel of that car. It was so much fun to drive. I like the fact that I don't want to say we outsmarted ourselves, but in qualifying, you and I drafted around, got feel for the car in practice. Times were okay. We knew, we're going out with Lawson was going out, Steve Knight was going out, Dittmer and Welsh were going to go out as well. We had this kind of group that was waiting back. We did the one thing, David, that we get mad at drivers every time, pulling out onto the racetrack and going super slow. Everybody else trying to line up behind Dittmer and Welsh. That was. I felt dumb doing that.
I felt like, yeah. And again, like I said, I talked to you after the session. If I would have been on the inside line like you were, I would have pulled out and just taken off because it would, eventually somebody would have caught me and we would have been able to draft or they would have drafted around us and then we could have gotten a better lap at the end. I didn't get one lap.
I didn't get one lap in the draft.
It was essentially a cluster because before we even completed a lap, there was contact in turn what would be turn 4. There was contact coming out of the hairpin, which essentially put you in the grass, put Steve Knight up in the air, and then just chaos ensued. So it screwed up a good chance at a good lap for a number of us. I was able to kind of sit back and watch the cluster happen in front of me. and then was able to get through it without any issues and go up and draft up onto some other people that were ahead of me. So I was able to get down a good lap to be 12th overall, a 109.1, which was just over 9/10 of a second off what Gary Lawson was able to do, as he was able to kind of time things just right for him in that session. But it was the qualifying there again, because it's all draft reliant, was very tough and very challenging. But yeah, as you said, we should have just went out on our own and found people to draft off of,
or just bolted out from there and waited for those guys to reel us in.
Exactly.
Because they probably would. I ended up qualifying 30th. I never even got one lap with anybody in a tow, because once Steve Knight took off, got back by me, I couldn't hang with him. Into the heat race, which was interesting. Of course, 3 wide starts at that point. You were on the outside of row 4. I was on the outside of row 10. Big run around the outside of turn 1, turn 2. Everybody's kind of diving back to the right. You and I were still on the left. I could see. I'm like, this is going to be a good start for me. Dave's right there. We roll through the corner, and I'm like you're supposed to. I'm really looking forward. I'm kind of settling the cart and the brake a little bit. All of a sudden, I see some guy spinning, and I see the big E on the back of your suit up in the air. I'm going to try to hold on to the inside line. The guy loops around, doesn't hold the brake down, and the cart just starts rolling back at me. And I had to go to the grass. You got a bent axle. That kind of changes the complexion of our particular personal battle right there.
Yeah, it ended before it basically began. I was just thankful that nobody came through and hit me again, because again, I started 12th, probably dropped back to probably about 18th or 20th by the time we got to that turn. But, knowing that, everybody was going to drift wide, I was like, you know what, I'm going to stick to the inside here. And it would have worked out had he not gotten sideways. Now, I don't watching the video again, I don't think he got sideways on his own. I think he got pushed around and turned around, so thus spinning him around. So it technically wasn't his fault, but he didn't quite hold the brakes as long as I hoped he would. And I made the decision to go right instead of left, because I wanted to stay on the pavement. I didn't want to go through the grass, because I thought once I hit the grass, I was going to be done with. And
you were. I was.
I took the gamble, and the gamble didn't pay off, and ended up with a pretty severe bent axle. But again, thankful that nobody hit me after that, because I got turned backwards looking at probably 20 more carts coming at me. Thankfully, everybody went around and didn't make contact. Chuck Maitland got locked in with my wheels. I was able to restart him and get him going again. But my race was done.
Well, I lost probably at least 10 spots, maybe more, going to the inside of the racetrack. So I fell well outside the top, probably like the 40th or something. I can't remember who I hooked up with, but we moved forward back. I ended up getting back to 27th. So I actually gained a couple of spots. Of course, there was Tricia and you being part of that group. So I was 27th. You were at the very tail of the field. So the pre-final, David, for me, I was on the outside of row 9 again. So my idea was just to kind of hang out and see what happened and move forward. I was able to get myself back up to 19th position. So a pretty good advancement overall for me, getting a couple of spots, almost, 8-9 spots. You, on the other hand, a much different view, starting from the very, very, very back of the field.
Yeah, I think I could have got a lot more had it not be for a red flag on lap 2, which, again, as we talked about earlier, put us in a single file restart. Well, I had only gotten a few, probably maybe 10 carts at that time. And the single file restart was not good on my side, because, as I said, everybody was gone by the time we got up over turn 2. And I got locked up, or I think it was Quincy Smith who I locked up with. Me and him worked together, so we were able to to move up to the 34th position. So past a number of carts, still carts that were spinning off here and there. So we got those guys, and just it was a bit of a wild race, that's for sure. He had it on board. I got to see some of it. The camera on the front of his was not working, so it was cool to see the perspective of him pushing me through a lot of it in the early laps of that race. So the cart felt good. There was a little bit of a vibration with the clutch on the initial takeoff, so I'm not quite sure if that had any issues with the overall pace, but it was still a pretty good run from 60th to 34th.
Yeah, so away we go. I'm starting 19th. You're starting 34th. They decided again to go to the double row start, so you didn't get an opportunity to jump what would have been the outside or the inside of row number 12. So we've been a lot closer. I think I knew it the minute we got rolling first lap. I knew that I was pretty much where I was because I needed at least 2 teeth. We'd asked Colton to drop 1 tooth. That was good, but man, I was on the rev limiter in turn 1. I come out of 1 kind of thing in the draft. And really, I couldn't help anybody. And the minute, like you mentioned it in the Yamaha, the minute I tucked out to look inside and got that air in my on the front of the cart, I was done. I was with guys and I watched guys pull away. Thankfully, Jeff Hill hooked up with me at one point. I was able to work with Jeff. John Ewing was in there as well. In the end, it was Ewing and Chuck Maitland that blew by me. But I think I fell back to like 24th, and I raced my way back up to 15th, and I ended up finishing 19th, exactly where I was. I was running 17th, and no draft, like nobody to draft with. I finally had one guy. I knew some guys were catching me. I got this guy. I'm like, okay, this guy's going to help me. Final lap. So we're coming out of 2. I go around the outside of him. I got a good run. I go, this is going to be good. I just kind of look over the right side of my eye, and here comes John Ewing in the 9 and Chuck Maitland. I think he's in the 14. They a full head of steam working together, blew right by me. And Chuck told me when he passed me in his helmet, he yelled, "Book it." I'm like, yeah. So I lost 2 spots in the last lap. I had no one around me to race with. I tucked in behind Chuck, and I hoped they'd wreck each other in the final corner, but they didn't. So I ended up finishing 19th. You, of course, though, working your way up to 29th. Again, not a bad run overall, starting 60th in the pre-final.
Yeah, I had to make a detour into the grass at one point. Some guys went 4 wide into the right-hander, and 2 of them got sideways. So it was like, well, I bend up enough stuff, not going to do it again, and took the detour around the outside lane instead of trying to dive through all the mess. So I lost a number of positions there. I believe that was like lap 3 or 4. So I lost a number of positions I had just gained through the early passing of the early laps. But I was able to hook up with Tom Harleman and Matthew Burpo. He was, as you said, we should have went down 2 teeth because he was essentially my extra horsepower. He pushed me around that racetrack more than anybody. And we were able to knife our way through a number of packs, get a pack, pass through those guys, start going up to the next carts. And, if it was a 20 lap race, we might've got into maybe the top 20, I think. I think we saw your group and some carts behind you guys up a little bit ahead when we were going through the left-hander there, but not enough time, only 14 laps. So we had to do what we did. And, I was ahead of him the whole time, but he pulled the old great drag race to the line and beat me out. The clutch just wouldn't go without him pushing me. So
you were asking for more, and it wasn't going to provide it for you.
Yeah. So he beat me to the line for 28. So I ended up finishing 29th.
Well, then let's put the exclamation point on the end of this, David. It's a hashtag. It's hashtag beat David Cole, my friend.
Nope.
You have not beaten me in 16 years. You've never beaten me.
Well, it's not like we've raced 16 years, Rob. So you can't say.
But it wasn't even racing. It was anytime we went anywhere, and you can attest to this, David. Anytime indoor karting, outdoor karting, I was always
again. It's not like it's been 16 years that we've been doing this, Rob. All right. I'll let you have your moment because my moment's coming in October. I can feel it.
I don't know what you're talking about. I swear.
Yeah, because you're going to retire.
Hold on.
Yeah,
you're not even in live timing because your transponder wasn't working, was it?
It was working. It's not on Race Monitor. It's on my lap. So because for some reason somebody wanted to steal my number 4, and thus
all I know is
I've
I've gone undefeated again. Another win for Rob. It wasn't a pretty win, but it's another win again for Rob Howden. I beat you at last year's Brickyard. I beat you at last year's Cup Carts North America race. I beat you this year's Brickyard. I commend you for your perseverance because you can only have your ass kicked so many times and not want to quit racing, right?
So, EKN trackside calendar. Let's move to that.
Do you want to? Who's it presented by, David? Do you want to do this?
No, go ahead. You want to talk, so you can talk all you want.
EKN Trackside Live Race Counter presented by hashtag Beat David Cole. It's actually presented by IAME USA East. IAME USA East is the East Coast distributor of the hottest two-cycle engine program in American karting, featuring the SSE 175cc shifter, the X30, KA100, and Swift engines, which can be found at club, regional, and national racing events. IAME USA East supports strong programs like the United States Pro Kart Series, WK Manufacturers Cup, F-Series Gear Up Challenge, the Route 66 Kart Racing Series, and the Sunshine State Karting Challenge. Finding info on our products and all of our dealers at IAMEUSAEast.com. All right, Cole, I'm already here. I'm at the e-karting news, what we call it, Newcastle home base, Newcastle headquarters, our Airbnb here that we stayed at last year. I'm already here. You'll be coming in on Thursday. We got back-to-back SCUSA Pro Tour weekends. Are essentially jamming the entire Pro Tour into 2 weekends at Newcastle Motorsports Park. A couple of different configurations. August 6th to 9 for the first triple header, 3 races a weekend. August 13th to 16th for the next triple header. All 6 Pro Tour races in essentially a 10-day period.
That's the wild part about it, is to be able to go from the beginning of a championship chase one day to, as you said, 10 days later, boom, we have a champion. It's going to be a weird feeling to have 6 rounds of racing done just like that. And not only that, but to have 3 rounds in just one weekend. So we go back, 1, 2, and 3, boom, 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 like that. It's going to definitely test not only the drivers and teams, but the equipment. And to see, especially going around the Super Mile track first weekend, to see just how well these karts and engines are going to last over 3 rounds of racing.
From there, David, a couple of weeks off for you. I'm actually now it's been announced. It'll be surreal. Once again, back with IndyCar Radio for my 4th running my 4th time with them for the Indianapolis 500. They just announced today, no fans at the event, so it's going to be absolutely surreal being down there on pit lane to report on this. I know that obviously the TV numbers are going to be amazing. Our radio numbers are, I think, normally 14 million people listening on the IMS radio network. So we'll see how many we get listening now that people can't come. They're normally 400,000 people there, so it should be interesting. Hopefully we'll get a good clean race, but it'll be odd for sure. I'll go to Gateway after that for the road to Indy and IndyCar. But David, you're back at it with the EKN Trackside Live program with the USPKS Badger State Grand Prix. You go up to Road America Labor Day weekend, September 4th to 6th. I like seeing the USPKS go up to Road America. They repaved that track. It's an awesome facility, and I think you're going to have a great weekend there. Yeah,
if you can't go to Rock Island Grand Prix, I think Road America is a great substitute for that. And the USPKS program coming off a record-breaking event at Newcastle in July shows that the Road America event is going to be just as big, probably, with a number of drivers and teams supporting the program in 2020. So should be a great weekend up in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin.
The rest of our EKN Trackside Live calendar, of course, Trackside Live brought to you by Cooper Tires. We'll see. It's kind of in a state of flux right now. We've got events that we're planning on going to right now still. Again, stuff needs to be confirmed. Of course, looking to hopefully finish the season off at the SCUSA Super Nationals in Las Vegas. We'll see what happens, folks. We do have these races coming up. We hope you tune into EKN Trackside Live. We'll be, of course, live coverage next couple of weekends at Newcastle Motorsports Park. Looking forward to streaming that as we always do. But David, let's wrap up this debrief talking about the USAC karting battle at the Brickyard, the largest club race in the United States. Another massive success.
It was. I mean, in the terms of the status of our country and the world, just being able to enter the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in order to have, the hundreds of people that were there, again, social distancing, wearing masks throughout the weekend, doing all the things that we needed to do to comply with the guidelines set by not only the Speedway, but the state of Indiana. And just to be able to bring everybody together again at the Speedway is just amazing.
Yeah, shout out to Liquid Sky. They're actually going to be doing our new racing suits pretty soon. Matt Jasko and Julio Rios helping us out with that. We had our EKN Busks, right? Our masks that we were able to wear. I found them super comfortable, and I wore it all weekend long. I'm was glad to see so many people really making sure that they kept their nose in there and everything done correctly, right?
Yeah, it was done. Yeah, essentially. I mean, no matter if you agree or disagree, it was a rule, and everybody, aside from being inside your own tent or in your vehicle, everybody was wearing masks, and it was great to see people following the guidelines that were set out by the Speedway.
We did have a few red flags. There was a pretty aggressive, I saw some video, pretty aggressive wreck. Cadence Taylor was injured in the Briggs 206 Junior pre-final. I've actually stayed in contact with her dad, Stephen, and he actually just messaged me this morning that there's a good possibility that Cadence will be released from the hospital today. She's pretty beat up, but there's a good possibility she could be home tonight, which I think is fantastic news. And she's already talking about when she can get back in a cart, which is awesome.
Yeah, it was good. We didn't exactly see what happened. We were right at the comment tent when we heard the wreck. We didn't see it, but we knew a couple of the kids were injured in the incident, and she obviously was one of those injured. But glad to see that she's progressing quickly. That's the great thing about kids. They as we were talking about, they, on the restart, these kids were just starting their own engines and jumping right back into the cart. And, she'll be doing that in a matter of weeks. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, it was great to get it was really great to get the message from Steve this morning. So David, bottom line is this, to cap it off, what does the future hold for 2021 for the Battle at the Brickyard? I don't think anybody really knows. The new ownership group with the Penske Entertainment Corporation, will we be back? There are a lot of changes coming with IMS, I think. Let's cross our fingers that Roger looks and says, hey, you know what? Having grassroots motorsports as part of the action at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is something he wants to continue to see.
Yeah, and again, we have a great, I don't want to say partnership, but we have a great person inside with the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and Doug Bowles. He was one of the people that were part of bringing karting to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He wanted to see He wants to see grassroots motorsports at the IMS facilities, and especially karting. So hopefully, things will just continue as they are in terms of USAC karting and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But again, we won't really know until the month of December when they start looking at the 2021 calendar.
That's about it. Well, folks, David, we'll let him wrap things up. There you go. Episode 66 of the EKN Debrief, August 4th. Thank you so much for listening here and listening to the EKN Radio Network. Again, the USAC Battle at the Brickyard going into the books this past weekend. It was a tremendous event. Kudos to all the drivers that were able to come home with bricks. Shout out to the Mickey Rupp Award winners, Tom Harleman and Ryan Pickering. And again, thank you so much to everybody at USAC Karting, Mike Burrell, Jason Burgess, Rick Folks, the whole crew there as well. Of course, Alec and David Coates involved. The Riggins family was there. Just so many people involved in making this event as big as it was. The voices, of course, of the event, Randy Kugler and Caleb Smock, doing a great job. Thank you so much again for joining us here, folks. Thanks to Briggs & Stratton for presenting this particular edition of the EKN Debrief. Lots more to come. Right out of this, folks, tomorrow David Cole and I will be producing our SCUSA Outlap podcast, a preview for this weekend's SCUSA Pro Tour Summer Nationals. Make sure you keep listening to the EKN Radio Network. Thanks for tuning in. On behalf of David Cole, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.